Brodes Media.
Okay, now let's move on to the next thing that's buzzing around the Eagles world, and that is what Drew Brees continues to do on ESPN. He rips the Eagles nonstop, it feels. And I want to play this 2-minute clip where I think there's a lot of truth to what he's saying. I don't like the tone of how he says some of it, and I don't think he's forward thinking enough either throughout his assessment. Here's what Drew Brees states about the Philadelphia Eagles after beating Minnesota.
I'll start with you. I know you called that Eagles offense vanilla a couple of weeks ago, but it's too much being made about the Eagles offensive struggles.
Look, it is about winning. And I'll be honest, I'm shocked that they're 5-2 based on how they've played. They are a middle of the pack offense and they're a middle of the pack defense right now. And I think shockingly, statistically, they are the 30th ranked rushing offense in the league.
Thank you.
Would you have ever thought that the Philadelphia Eagles, with the best back in football and one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in football, and one of the best O-lines in football, would be the 30th ranked rush defense? And they've got two of the most explosive receivers in the league. Here's what I see when I turn on the Philly tape. I see a team who has gone so far from what was their identity. Man, in the past, it was, man, we are run first, and we are either handing it off to this guy with a light box because somebody has to account for the quarterback, or Jalen Hurts is going to pull it and he's going to run, or he's going to throw an RPO because we have favorable numbers on the edge and we're going to get in these playmakers' hands. And we're just going to sit there and dent the defense, and we're going to control the clock. And then the point totals will reflect that. And then the defense isn't going to be out there as long. But it's hard not to turn them on and say, man, they just don't look like what they've done in the past. And maybe they're just shifting their mindset. It looks like they're just trying to put Jalen in the gun, do a lot more drop back passing, and give him the opportunities just to read the defense and throw the football. And if that's what they want to do, that's fine. But I just don't think it's as good as they could be. And I think that's what we need to focus on here is, yeah, you're winning games, but are you as good as you could be when you have the top 10 highest paid guys on your team on offense?
Well,
and you are the 30th ranked rushing offense in the league, and you're just like squeaking out games.
Okay, so obviously we hate hearing any sort of trash talk. Yeah, not trash talk, but any sort of negative views on our team from an outsider, especially someone that seems to have an agenda to rip us every time he gets the chance. But there's truth to what he's saying. Here's where I disagree, though. Of course, we sit here every day and internally as a fan base rip this team for not living up to the standard. Yet, not living up to the standard yet. We don't feel they hit their stride. You're right. They're not playing as well as they should, as well as they can. But they are still 5-2. And you may look at it as, I don't see how they're 5-2, while I look at it as great teams stack wins while figuring out the process of how to maximize this current year. Each season's different. Yeah, maybe there was an identity shift because teams saw and studied over and over again what transpired last season, and the league came together, not actually, but as each coach went to their respected film room, they realized this is what the Eagles did. We need to take that away. We can't allow Saquon to be that much of a force, and now that changes how the Eagles have to operate their attack, and they're figuring out this version of their identity. And it takes time. You don't just snap your fingers and get that. So that's part of why it looks the way that it does. But a great team winning while it may be ugly, and while there may be 3 and outs, and while there may be inconsistencies in what they're doing. And I agree, it's not pleasurable to the eye nonstop, but we can't downplay being greasy and winning throughout that time. You know, look, we ripped through the Kansas City Chiefs last year in the Super Bowl where it wasn't even competitive. But there's something to be said about the Chiefs all year long. And I know they didn't win the Super Bowl, right? They did get embarrassed, but I mean, they They got to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to diminish and they already won multiple Super Bowls prior to that. How many teams are winning 3 straight damn Super Bowls, okay? So, I mean, that's part of this pie too. There was something about last year's Chiefs team that aesthetically didn't look like previous teams and this and that. And I think there was only one team that was going to do that to the Chiefs last year. And it just so happened that the Chiefs ran into us. Like the Chiefs could have beat the Lions. The Chiefs could have beat the Rams. The Chiefs could have beat Green Bay. The Chiefs could have beat any of those teams. That version of the Chiefs last season could have destroyed and annihilated any of those teams coming out of the NFC, except for the Eagles because of the heartbreak in 22, just because of the way that they were so dedicated to win that game with revenge because of Jalen Hurts. But that Chiefs, it was a different look. But coming off of Super Bowls, and when you're playing a Super Bowl schedule the next year, because, you know, you play those teams when you're winning the division and everyone's getting ramped up and they want to give you your best, and it's going to look a little weird. And also, how much of this too? He mentioned the O-line. He said, oh, the O-line's great. No, it's not. See, this year it's not, though. It's not. And that's also why they may have to shift some of their philosophy with the offense. Because if they can't run block, then things are going to change. And if they're better at pass blocking, maybe you got to play to your strengths of this year's offensive line. Now, they got to figure out the run game. But winning while figuring it all out and going back to the drawing board each week and trying to push certain buttons. See, I think that's crazy. Because he says he doesn't think they look, what's the quote? The Eagles just don't look like what they've done in the past. Okay. So it's a new version of the team. And you could say all you want that, well, last year everyone knew the run was coming. Well, last year was last year. And yes, Saquon had Saquon's always going to be great for this little window that we're in, right? I still think he's physically dominant and still a force. But you're not going to have the most historic year every year you ever touch the football. He's been amazing his whole career. He's never done that except for once. And a lot of it was predicated on Mekhi Becton at right guard, mauling people, and the way Lane and Mailata were playing. And the whole thing just really did move as one. The unit was perfect. Landon Dickerson wasn't as banged up, or at least if he was, he didn't show it as much. And because I'm sure those guys were hurting, but they were just grooving as one. It's okay that they don't look like that because it's October. And most teams don't. Last year, the Eagles didn't look like that at this time. The Eagles didn't look like that at this time. They were 2-2. They had their bye. Nick Sirianni was yelling at fans. I mean, when was that Cincinnati game? Because that's the game that always hits hard for me. Eagles 2024 schedule results. It was the second half against Cincinnati. Wasn't that week 7? It was week 7 or week 8, game 7, because they had the early bye, where they won 37-17 on the road. October 27th. It's October 22nd. So we're even earlier than last year. You can acknowledge things do look a little, but not even. But I don't know. Now, after that Minnesota game, it seems like things are moving the right way. I don't know. I don't understand it at all. I really don't.